10 questions for America.
10 questions.
And we're starting with my grandfather, Carl. I won't use your last name unless you want to. You can.
No, that's fine.
We'll just say your first name. That's good enough.
That's fine.
But the first question is, where did you grow up, and tell me about your life?
Okay. Well, I was born in Macon County, Decatur, Illinois. My mother was Rose Yeagle, June Rose Yeagle, and my father was Charles Francis Yeagle. I was born in a chicken house, in a one-room, single chicken house that had been cleaned out and modified, because this was right after the war, and there wasn't anything.
Which war?
This would have been World War II.
So things have changed a little bit then.
Things have changed a lot. Things have changed to terrible, really a mess now.
And what year was this?
That was 1947.
1947.
May 14th, 1947. And from the chicken house, we lived there by about, how long did we live there? Well, I don't know for sure because I was born there, but the next recollection I have is when I was about 2 or maybe 3. And we had moved to Jordan Street in Decatur. And in Jordan Street, I got my first bicycle, which was a big deal back then.
What kind of bike was it? You remember?
It was a two-wheeler with 2 extra wheels on the sides. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And from Jordan Street, we moved to 3550 North Broadway, which now is Martin Luther King Drive. And Dad bought an acre of property and built a new home there. And in the process of building that, he built a chicken coop out back, and we had chickens, and we'd go out and collect the eggs. That'd be my job to collect the eggs. So anyway, we would. I guess I got straight off of the original question.
Oh, that's fine.
But anyway, after he built the house, and I would walk to my own school every day, and that's where those pictures came from. I was there for I think the second, third, fourth, and fifth grade, and then the 6th grade I went to Centennial Junior High School. So, but I'd walk back and forth through an empty field, which is now all houses, but back then it was a empty one big room. It was a single room schoolhouse kind of thing.
So it was just a single room, and
one big gigantic.
There's all the grades in there.
All the grades are in there.
Yeah.
And then from there, I guess after that, put me on pause there, so
yeah, sure.
At this point in my life, I was being bused back and forth to Centennial Junior High, along with my neighbor Billy Sanders and all of the people that I could still remember back from the one single room school. But I was in music and I was in art, and I was the one that every morning I'd stand out in the hallway, and after the main bell rang, and I'd blow the reveille call for the school to open up, and then in the evening I'd blow the last one.
What is that, like a horn or something?
It was a horn, it was a trumpet,
Yeah,
it was
cool.
a trumpet.
Okay.
And I still have that trumpet today.
You do?
Yeah, still have it today. So
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep, played the trumpet. I ended up playing the trumpet, the trombone, the bass horn, and all in junior high school. So I went to junior high there at Centennial, and from Centennial I ended up going to Stephen Decatur High, where I was not a very good student. I didn't like school at all. And
is that when you started having little problems at school?
High
school?
We were having problems in high school, mainly because I would go out to catch the bus, and I knew the mom and dad was still in the house. So while I was waiting on the bus, I'd go over. There was a hill in front of our house. I'd go over the hill. The bus would come and stop, and then it'd shut the door, and then drive on because they'd think I was in the bus. And then from there, I went down to what was Brentwood Village at the time, and it had a restaurant in there called Little Pig's Barbecue, and I kind of hung around there, and finally they offered me a job there, and I started working there.
So you ate there and were just hanging out? You hang out there with your buddies?
Before I was going to school, everybody thought I was going to school, so that worked until the truant officer came out to the house one day. I knew what time I had to get back off, come back home, and the truant officer was at the house.
Oh no!
So that kind of blew that.
I know a little bit about that.
Yeah. So that was the. Then pause that for a second.
Okay.
My dad had some mental problems, and he had to go to the doctor. And they at that time there wasn't anything like it is today. You had to, if you were diagnosed with any kind of mental problems, they sent you to a hospital. And there was one in Jacksonville, Illinois, and one in by Chicago. And the first one he went to was the one by Chicago. And in the course of all that, I'd be in and out of school. So I'd be from one school to another school, and then out of that school to another school. So it broke up my entire as far as being in any kind of progression of going from one class to another class to another class. I lost all that. So eventually I dropped out of school then at as soon as I could, which was 17, I quit school and went back to the Little Pigs, and they hired me back and started there. Then I went down at Super X Drugs, which is right next door. Got a job there. I'd work during the day. I'd work at Little Pigs. When I got off from 4:30 in the afternoon, I'd go to Super X Drugs, and I'd work from 4:30 until I got off in the evening, which I can't remember. I think it was 8 o'clock or 8:30 from Super X, and then I'd go in the back room, and I had bought a buffer and a scrubber for the floors. And I convinced them that I could do the floors better than anybody else, so they gave me that job. So I had 3 jobs going at the same time. And I was saving most all my money. Yeah. And in hopes of buying a car because I was getting tired of walking. So I bought a 1956 Mercury, and overhauled it, got it repainted. It was one of my first cars, and since that time I've had about 23 cars, I guess, or 25 cars in my lifetime, but that was one of the nicest.
What was it? A Mercury?
Mercury, yeah.
What color was it?
It was green, and I painted everything white.
Oh, you did?
White, and put blue interior in it.
Nice.
Interior redone. So
that's cool. It was what year?
That would have been a 1965, I think. I believe it was 65.
Okay.
65. So pause me a second. Yeah. And then a friend of my dad's asked me if I wanted to go to work at a factory and work in the tool warehouse where they pass out tools. Mm-hmm. And that's the job I took. So, am we running or not?
Yeah, we're going. Yeah.
So we went to, it's called Huss and Sleeper, which is now no longer in existence. But I went into the warehouse, and my job was pass out the tools and take a token from someone that came to the window, give them a drill, give them whatever, and then when they brought it back, I had to give them their tokens back. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I was responsible for the tools, and also responsible for all of the inventory that was in the back. Things that we bought, we'd come in, we'd cost code them for a job, put them on a shelf, And I wasn't ever satisfied with the boxes, the way everything was kind of helter-skelter put on the shelf. So I started lining everything up so you could look straight down the aisleway, and everything was perfectly even when you look down the aisleway. And unbeknownst to me, the owner of the place came through one day and he says, "Who is working on the boxes in here?" And they told him it was me, and he came around and said, "Would you want to come into the office and learn how to do drafting, be a draftsman?" And I said, it paid more money, about 75 cents more an hour, and so I was off and running in drafting, and I picked it up really quick.
Did you?
Became a draftsman, and they had 7 draft people in there, draft persons, and at the end of the 3rd year, I was the #1 draftsman in the back, and then we transferred out to they built a new plant, went out on Brush College Road, and went to work there for 7 years, 6 years, and then I met a friend in there, and he and I decided we were going to break away and go into business on our own. So he had most of the money. I didn't have hardly any saved up for that, but we started what was called Karoke Manufacturing Company. Carl, C-A-R, and Ken, K-E-N, was Karoke Manufacturing, and we started building and making the same things that we were making in the at Huston Sleeper. So, and on my travels out through the country, I ran into a farmer, and the farmer had invented a new product. He called it would go down into a grain truck and it'd bring the sample back up and put it into the truck. And I said, we want that. We want to be exclusive for that. So we signed a contract with him, became the exclusive only person that could build it. He had the patent on it. And we started building grain probes. That's probably one of the biggest regrets of my life that I didn't stay with that. But Ken decided to get a divorce, got divorced, and then I was the sole person, owner of the company. And that company today, Karoke Manufacturing, is worth several $1 billion. The probes are all over the world. They started in the United States, ADM, Saley's, all of the grain companies now have them, and that was the biggest failure of my life, not staying with it. So anyway, that kind of wraps up the grain probe side of things. I've had, in my lifetime, I've had 5 different companies that I've owned. I've got 3 products that I've patented and got patents on, and in the grain industry. And I've tried my hand at a lot of things. I've built fish tanks, had a fish store up in Rockford for several years, but ended up back in Decatur. Let's see, what else you?
So you said the Karoke manufacturing. Okay, that was the second question. What's your biggest regret?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
so
my biggest regret, not staying with it.
Yeah. Because it's worth billions. So
it's worth billions of dollars today.
Yeah, I can remember that's a pretty good one to be.
And then the third question you have
was, what do you want others, including family, to remember you by?
I think Elvis singing and doing karaoke was one of my loves, period. And I've done it for several years. I bought the karaoke equipment and did all that, and went out and did karaoke, and always started with Elvis stuff. So Elvis would be the thing I think I'd want somebody to remember me by.
What do you think of the current state of the country?
That is such a loaded question. This country is in really, really, really bad shape in all respects.
Yeah.
I come from, in my lifetime, I'll be 75 years. In 75 years, we came from a lot less people, and I think the biggest problem we have, quite frankly, in the world is our population explosion of people. There's just too many people. we can't sustain the numbers that are coming every year without the crumbling the earth. And,
You mean like immigration?
just immigration, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about new people being
Okay.
born
Right.
every
Right.
year.
Okay.
It explodes by billions of people.
Yeah.
Not millions anymore, it's billions.
Right. Okay. Now, you kind of already answered this. Who did you idolize growing up?
It was Elvis. Elvis would be my...
So that was the fifth question. Who did you idolize growing up? So how did you feel when he passed away?
I felt bad, really bad. Obviously, if you look around my room in here, everything's Elvis in here. It's a dedicated room to him, and I have a jukebox with him on it. I have pictures and memorabilia of all kinds of his, and it was devastating. And now that his Lisa Marie passed away, it's just about all that was left of Elvis's singing side is gone. So it makes it really bad.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What's your thoughts on the current president?
Well, I got to say we got to get somebody in here that will actually do something for the country and for the people, not for themselves. Everyone that we have in office today, and this is from the president down, is looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
They look for contracts that they can move to their side and get paid back for. And it's corrupt. It's a corrupt government. So we get. So that answers that.
Number 7. What advice do you have for today's youth?
Well, that's a tough question. Advice for today. I'd say that any young person that has children needs to start thinking about the longevity of this planet, because probably in their lifetime, in your lifetime, and in their lifetime for sure, there's going to be some major changes to this earth, and unless the whole world unless the whole world starts doing something about it, we're in really, really bad trouble.
Number 8. Okay, you kind of talked about this a little bit. What were the toughest and greatest moments of your life? So your highs and your lows.
My highs and my lows, yeah. My highs obviously was the kids that we've had, and my lows would be just the defeats I've had. I've had a lot of defeats. I was borderline on creating a tremendous amount of wealth, and for whatever the reason, they've all fell by the wayside. So that's kind of the bottom end of it.
Okay. Now, if you could do anything over again, what would it be?
Well, if I could do anything over again, think about that. I had
I can pause it.
more contact with my immediate children. They were raised primarily by their mother, my ex, and I believe I could have brought some things that would have been beneficial to them individually. So that would be one of the things I'd change.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ready for the last question?
Yeah.
Can you tell me all your thoughts on God? Just basically.
Well, that's an interesting question. I had 2 or 3 things I thought about that. I've never been, when I was born, baptized. I have never gone really to church on a Sunday, other than just occasionally.
Right.
So I think that I don't have a real opinion of the Lord or God. I'd like to think that He's there and that He plays an important role in our lives, but I truly don't know whether it's real or not. So I guess I don't have an opinion on it.
Okay. Let me just ask you one more question. Since a lot of people watch this channel for Parkinson's information, you have no knowledge of anything in the family that would have caused neurological?
None.
Okay.
None. And we have talked about it internally, Melinda and I, and Parkinson's there's a lot of chemicals that are produced today that could have a generalized bearing on your mother, which in this case would have been Shireen, and that would have affected your outcome, how you are today. What a person does when they're growing up or growing old has a lot of influence on how long you're going to be here, for one thing. So,
anything else you want to say?
Not really. I could bore you to death with all the places and things I've done, but it would be secondary. So.
All right. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Pressed between the pages, mine and mine. Memories sweeping through the ages, just like wine. Quiet thoughts come floating down and settle softly on the ground, like golden autumn around my feet. I touch them and they drift upon the sweet memory. Sweet memory of holding hands and red bouquet, twilight trimmed in purple, laughing eyes and simple ways.
Oh my God.
Quiet nights and gentle days. Memories pressed between the pages, mine and mine. Memories sweeten through the ages, just like wine. Memories, sweet memories, holding hands and red bouquet, twilight trimmed in purple hair, laughing eyes and simple ways, quiet nights and gentle days. Memories, sweet memories.